Welcome to Cattle Connect, your insight into Alabama's beef cattle industry. I'm your host, Kayla Greer, and this is Cattle Connect, brought to you by the Alabama Cattlemen's Association. Welcome back to the Cattle Connect podcast. It has been quite the festive January. We've had snow in North Alabama, which is not all that unheard of. But we've also had snow on Alabama's coastline, which is quite the unique phenomenon. There has been a historical presidential inauguration, executive orders coming out of D.C., not to mention planning our own statewide events like our upcoming convention and the upcoming legislative session. And y'all, it is just January. We're only 1 month into 2025, which makes me think that we need to saddle up for one heck of a wild ride of a year. So as I'm talking, I'm noticing the theme of this is kind of some uncertainty. I've got uncertainty is the word dancing around in my head. And I can say with full confidence that there's one thing that nobody wants to be uncertain about, and that's healthcare coverage that you provide for your family. Yeah, sure, we can live with an uncertain weather forecast. We can live with the bustle of event planning. But as the old adage said, healthcare coverage is one of those things that you'd rather have and not need than to need it and not have it. But unfortunately, as many of you may know a little too personally in your own life, affordable healthcare coverage is a tough commodity to come by, which puts Alabama's farm families and small business owners in a bit of a pickle at times. Taking that bull by the horns are our friends and partners at Alpha, and joining me today in studio to talk about the how and why is Russ Durrance. Russ serves on the Federation's Policy and Governmental Affairs team, and I've got a feeling that he has come to know a thing or two about healthcare over the past years. Russ, welcome.
Thank you, Kayla. Glad to be here in studio with you guys at the Cattlemen's Association.
And this is not your first time in our studio, is it? Or maybe physically in the new studio, but not your first time on the Cattle Connect, right?
That's right. I was glad that apparently I did a good enough job the first time that I got invited back. So glad to be back.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. So, Russ, today we're talking about healthcare plans that will be offered to farmers and small business owners by the Alabama Farmers Federation if the formative legislation works its way through the political process this session. Can you tell us a little bit about the backstory and how you guys found yourselves working on this legislation?
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to. Kayla, just like I know, we have an opportunity to interact with our members each and every day and hear their stories about what's keeping them on the farm and maybe sometimes the unfortunate things of what's keeping them from being able to farm or being able to farm maybe the way that they want to. And we all know, and the listeners here certainly will know, the challenges that farmers face when it comes to healthcare. Oftentimes you hear stories of folks that are buying products on the open market and they're paying extremely high rates for their healthcare. Mm-hmm. Or we hear the stories of, hey, I wish that my husband or my wife could be here on the farm with me each and every day to help me or to help raise the family or whatever it may be, but we can't afford a product on the open market. So we're going to choose to go get a farm or to go get a job off of the farm so that we can have an employer help us subsidize that cost. So we understand that that's an issue in Alabama. We understand all of the things that impact the farmer from that with healthcare. And fortunately, we have some friends in 10 other states that have gone to their legislature to ask them for the approval to sell their own healthcare plan. And really, Tennessee Farm Bureau are kind of the pioneers in this space. They passed legislation in the 90s that ended up exempting them from the Affordable Care Act and gave them opportunities once the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, or sometimes it's referred to as Obamacare, once it passed, we know that it raised rates sometimes in certain ways for farmers and small business owners in the health insurance industry. So Tennessee Farm Bureau has managed to operate kind of in this space and still be able to offer a very affordable option for farmers and for small business owners too, those folks that are purchasing a product on the open market. So we are trying to follow their lead as our friends to the north of us and try to help give Alabamians that same opportunity.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue into the next question that I have. I wanted you to talk very specifically about who would benefit from these plan options if the formative legislation passes and we get to a place that you can offer this. Give me some examples of families that would benefit from this specifically. It's not you and me.
That's correct. So as an employee of the Farmers Federation and somebody who's married to somebody who works for Auburn University for the state, I have an opportunity to purchase my health care through my employer.
Right.
So I mentioned that you have farmers out there, farmers and small business owners really. When you break it down, who are those individuals that either don't have access to Medicaid, Medicare, or a VA supplement as a veteran, or don't have an opportunity to purchase their health care from their employer. They make money. So that's somebody that is either a small business owner or really a farmer who, in a way, is also a small business owner. They're running an operation and they're bringing in an income based on what they're doing. So in Tennessee, it's evident that the folks that are able to really take advantage of a plan like this are farmers and small business owners. And that's really not because no one else can take advantage of it. It's just because the product is not attractive for those individuals. So today, farmers and small business owners only have one option. And that one option is go to the federal marketplace, to our government, to purchase health care. So those rates are extremely expensive. And we see today, Kayla, that those individuals that are going to the government to purchase those health insurance plans are able to get a subsidy if they fall beneath 400% of the federal poverty level. 400% of anything sounds like a lot to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot.
But 400% of the federal poverty level for a family of four is only about $120,000 a year. So you think about, folks our age that may have, husband and wife, 2 kids, might be paying off loan debt from college or probably still have an active mortgage and car payments. $120,000 a year is not just a ton of money. And when you hear those folks tell you that we're making $120,000 a year, we've lost our federal subsidy for these health insurance plans, and now we're paying $25,000 a year for health insurance. Quickly you understand why folks are leaving the farm and they're going to town to get a job somewhere else. So that's really the group of folks that can take advantage of this, the folks that no longer qualify for a federal subsidy on a health insurance plan, and those folks that are paying the full freight for that cost.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, Russ, there's got to be some examples of people out there who are maybe operating their business out of way so that they can qualify for that subsidy. And that's hurting you in a whole different way. So I'm just picturing the types of families, like some very real circumstances. So maybe dad works on the farm, mom stays home, works on the farm, but dad drives a school bus in the mornings to qualify for the education provided health care coverage for his family. Or what's in another example of something, Russ? Like, I'm just trying to help people think about instances where this might affect them.
Yeah, no, I kind of boil all of it down, Kayla, to a loss of productivity. You have the family that's out there where mom and dad are both on the farm, they're both working, but they're paying $30,000 a year for health insurance.
That's crazy.
They're losing productivity because their financial assets and resources are tied up in paying for this coverage, where they could be spent maybe purchasing new land, purchasing new equipment, maybe hiring an additional employee to come and help them on the farm, high school kid, you name it.
Right.
There's the circumstance where you have a spouse that goes off the farm. We know of a farm family in Marshall County where the wife actually works for a poultry integrator to mainly receive health insurance benefits, but also some supplemental income. But their operation, Kayla, relies on fruits and vegetables and fruits and vegetable markets. And they tell us that some of the most productive markets for them to sell their produce in each week occur Monday through Friday during the workday. She can't go to those markets in Huntsville and down in Birmingham and sell their products. So they're losing an opportunity to build a relationship with a customer and move their produce and move their goods because they're working an off-the-farm job for the cost of health care. And then you're exactly right. One of the other examples would be the family that says, you know what, I don't want to pay, nor can I pay for an unsubsidized plan, so I'm going to choose to make sure that we limit the growth of this farm and limit our operation, even though maybe we do have customers that want to buy more freezer beef. And maybe we do think we could expand capacity, but we can't expand capacity
beyond
and lose
a certain
our subsidy.
Level. Yeah.
So we're going to do that. So then you mentioned in your intro, Kayla, the family that needs health care. You'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. There's a segment of the population out there that no longer qualifies for subsidies. They make good money, but they're choosing to go uninsured and they're choosing to risk their health.
Or just live off major medical.
Or live off major medical because they don't want to pay for those prices. So,
gosh, that's scary. And I hate that we found ourselves in a situation where that is the predicament for a lot of our farmers, because we all know and appreciate the fact that agriculture is the backbone and it's an absolutely necessary industry. And for an industry to thrive, you need people, but people have to do what's best for their families. So, all right, bringing it back here, Russ, to Montgomery. We've talked about what this is. We have some examples from other states, particularly your friends at Tennessee Farm Bureau. So what are the next steps here in Montgomery? What are you guys working on?
Yep. So right now we are working on trying to get a bill through the legislature. So in order for us to be able to...
Lucky you.
Yeah, I know it, right? So in order for the Farmers Federation to be able to sell a product like this, we need the Alabama legislature basically to grant us that authority. Okay. Senator Arthur Orr from Decatur has a bill that would give us that authority, but it's got to make it through the Senate, got to make it through the House, and eventually make it to the governor. So we're working on that. If your listeners are following kind of what's going on in Montgomery, healthcare is a big issue around our state.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of us, I know the Farmers Federation members and a lot of crossover with cattlemen's members, serve on local rural hospital boards and things like that. And we know that access to care is an issue, and our rural hospitals are closing each and every day. Mm-hmm. This solution is not the silver bullet that will save rural hospitals.
Right.
Farmers Federation and Senator Orr are not marketing it as the silver bullet to save rural hospitals, but it is an opportunity to give farmers an opportunity to save some additional money by purchasing another plan, and also hopefully cover some of those uninsured that are just choosing to go without right now today. So
yeah, and I'm trying to think. I'm sitting here thinking about, we know generally the number of farmers in the state of Alabama, but do you have any numbers, like percentage wise, of like the size of population we're talking about dealing with here?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So in Tennessee today, Tennessee has been selling these plans since 1947. So 70 plus years that they have been in operation. And today, Tennessee covers less than 2% of the state's population.
Oh,
so
wow.
They've got about 70 million people in the state of Tennessee, and I think their health plans cover about 138,000 lives. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking about a huge population. And it kind of matches what we said earlier, Kayla, that those folks that are working a job in town, you're not going to want to leave and go purchase this plan. Somebody that's on a government-provided Medicaid, Medicare, VA benefits, you're not going to leave that. It's really only for those folks that, or it's only attractive to those folks that are on an ACA marketplace plan from the government.
Yeah.
School nights mean more than homework, books, and study. It's a moment when families gather and learn, especially about each other. And nothing sets the table for sharing like beef. Easy to prepare and easy to save for later, beef can help nourish a family growing together. Together, we bring more. Beef. It's what's for dinner. Funded by beef farmers and ranchers.
Russ, you mentioned that this helps farmers, and we've talked about a variety of ways that it helps them by maybe taking their farm to the next level or bringing one of the spouses home. But maybe expand on that a little bit more. You and I talked before the show, and you mentioned some savings. So give me some more details there.
Yeah, so when you look at what Tennessee is doing and what these other states are doing that have passed legislation to be able to allow the Farm Bureau to sell these plans, they're able to achieve roughly 30 to 60% in cost savings.
Wow.
And those cost savings really come from risk mitigation. Mm-hmm. It's typical in insurance industry. If I can lower the risk that I have with my customer base or with my those that I cover, I can lower premiums. So not everyone qualifies for these plans. I think in Tennessee, roughly 8.5, 9 out of 10 individuals that apply for coverage qualify. But it gives those folks that do qualify an opportunity to save roughly 30 to 60%. So that farm family that's paying $30,000 a year might be paying...
That's a big chunk of change.
Yeah, they might be paying $15,000 a year.
That's a big deal.
So you're talking about five-figure savings, $10,000 to $15,000 potentially in savings for farm families.
Wow, that's a big deal. So is Alabama the only state looking to expand? You mentioned a couple others that have already done this, but are we the only state that's actively working on legislation?
No, good question, Kayla. I did mention earlier, there's 10 other states whose state legislature has given them the authority, the Farm Bureau in that state, to sell a plan like this. But there's actually going to be 4 other states with Alabama this year that are looking to try to offer a product like this. So those states would include Florida, Missouri, Ohio, and Wisconsin. And obviously we already talked about Tennessee, but Mississippi passed this last year. So if Alabama and Florida can get this covered, our friends to the east in Georgia will be the only ones surrounding us.
Have a little pressure on them.
Yeah,
That's right.
Our friends in Georgia will have some pressure in 2026.
Okay, Russ, well, we're beginning to wrap up a little bit on time here, but I wanted to ask an important question. We've talked about the why, the how, the who, the what, and all the work that's going on your end at the Federation and the team of lobbyists and legal counsel. So my question is, what can the good listeners of the Cattle Connect podcast do to help you guys in this mission? If their ears are perked up and they're seeing this as a potentially great option for their family, how can they join the cause?
Yeah, well, the easy answer is to contact a legislator. Contact your local official and ask for their support in this. But really, I would tell you, we have had an opportunity to talk with a lot of different groups about this, and this does not necessarily impact everybody, because there's plenty of folks in farm country who know that their wife wants to retire as a school teacher or they want to, go work something else. But we have really started to look at this in doing research in the other states where it's passed. This seems like the kind of legislation that really leaves a legacy.
Okay.
Similar to maybe current use or family farm preservation. It's one of those things that I feel like when we get 10, 20 years down the road, people will look back and say, this has really opened the door for my children
That's right.
or my neighbor to be able to come home and farm and be successful, or it's given them the financial opportunity to go purchase new land because they weren't tying their assets up financially in health insurance. So
and just change the dynamics of a farm too. Maybe it's been just a standard operating farm, but now we can make it this super profitable business or diversify in some way that we've always dreamed about but never been able to actually do. So super excited to see where this goes. I agree that I think that this can be a tipping point, a launching pad, whatever you want to call it, to give farm families that might feel like they have their hands cuffed a little bit in terms of options, because, we all have to make those adult decisions every now and then that we might not like, but we have to do it anyway. It can give families some new opportunities that they didn't dream that they would have and for their family and for their children. So excited for you guys to work on this. Folks, there's your marching orders. Contact your local representative, your local senator, and ask for their support on this. Tell them your story. We're always encouraging farmers to tell their story, because it doesn't matter what Russ and I say in the State House. I mean, we're going to do our best. The team there at Alpha is going to do their best. But what matters most is that our representatives and our senators hear it from you guys. There is just no better deliverer of a message than the person that it's going to impact the most. And so we hope, Russ, that you know how much we value our partnership with Alpha and that we're cheering you on in this effort as well. We look forward to having you guys sponsor our Cattlemen's College at convention this year. We're having a Cattlemen's College where Jackson Chance is going to be talking about farm safety and life-saving tips. And we said, hey, that sounds like a good opportunity for somebody who's looking to put out some healthcare plans. So you guys have joined us in that effort to get out some news, and excited about that. Excited to have you guys on board with that. And we look forward to working with you guys in the State House. But everyone, before I let you go, I need to remind you, I just alluded to it a little bit, but our 82nd annual ACA Convention and Trade Show is coming up in just a couple of weeks, February 21st and 22nd. That's where you can hear that Cattlemen's College that I was just talking about, and in addition to several other super informative panels and workshops, including BQA. We're talking about estate planning. We're talking about diversifying your farm's financials. And it is not too late to register, so hop online to bamabeef.org/events and explore our convention website. And speaking of websites, Russ, I think you guys have a website where people can go learn more about this, right?
That's exactly right, Kayla. We do have a website for this. The website is ahealthyoption.org.
Okay.
So ahealthyoption.org. You can go learn about these Farm Bureau healthcare plans, or these Alpha Health plans, as we would likely call them here in Alabama. But really just wanted to thank you guys. You mentioned a great partnership. Farmers Federation and Cattlemen's do have a great partnership.
That's
and
right.
Really appreciate you guys giving us an opportunity to come on the podcast, share what we're trying to do to not only help our members, but to help your members.
That's right.
And to help the folks of Alabama. So thank y'all for your support, and we're excited about coming to the 82nd convention in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we'll look forward to having you guys there. And like Russ said, it's ahealthyoption.org. I'll be sure to link that in the show notes and the show description. Go visit that website. They have produced a lot of really great videos of farm family stories that are talking about the type of people that this is going to affect and benefit. And that might be you. So go learn more about it, ahealthyoption.org. And that's all for now, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. And remember your marching orders. That is to contact your local representative and senator and show your support for this legislation. We will be starting the session on February 4th in Montgomery, so next week. And y'all be sure to come back next week for more Cattle Connect podcast. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Cattle Connect, brought to you by the Alabama Cattlemen's Association. Be sure to subscribe to get notified when our next episode goes live. And until next time, remember, beef, it's what's for dinner.